The Red Planet. Ever since we conquered the moon back in 1969, humanity has looked to the stars for the next big challenge. Our romanticism with Mars dates back millennia, and for a long time it's felt beyond our reach. But with international space communities and ambitious billionaires setting their sights on our solar neighbor, we could be closer to reaching the Red Planet than you think. Welcome to Fact Nominal. Today we'll be diving into humanity's next great space endeavor to our planetary neighbor and visiting Mars. We're closer than you think. How it all started. The first visitor to the surface of the Red Planet from Earth was a lander built by the Soviet Union in 1973. It was meant to land safely on the surface of Mars where it could make observations and conduct experiments. As it happened, the lander was destroyed on impact when it arrived over a year later in December 1974. In 1975, it was NASA's turn, successfully launching two landing craft, Viking 1 and Viking 2. The two craft touched down on the surface of Mars in 1976, where they conducted numerous tests and took photos of the alien landscape. While the Viking landers were only intended to operate for 30 days, the onboard radioisotope thermoelectric generators kept running for years. Viking Lander 1 made a final transmission to Earth November 11, 1982, 6 full years after landing successfully. Following the touchdown of the first landers in the 1970s, many other organizations have attempted similar missions to Mars. The European Space Agency launched its first lander in 2003, which was promptly lost upon arrival. A similarly unsuccessful mission was undertaken by Russia in 2011, which aimed to retrieve a sample of the Martian moon Phobos while also placing a Chinese probe in orbit. Communication and control was lost shortly after launch, with the rocket and probe being stranded in low Earth orbit before finally re-entering and disintegrating above the Pacific Ocean in 2012. As time has gone on and technologies improved, Mars missions have been successful and the craft better equipped. NASA's Curiosity rover and InSight lander were the most recent visitors to the Martian surface in 2012 and 2018, respectively. Both rovers have provided valuable information relating to habitability and the internal structure of Mars. In recent years, Mars exploration has shifted from unmanned missions to manned missions due to the competition between various organizations and companies, which has increased the pressure to get people to Mars first. Mars 1 intends to permanently send humans to Mars in 2031, while NASA plans to get people to Mars sometime in the 2030s. The United Arab Emirates also has set their eyes on Mars, with plans to build a human settlement on the Red Planet in the next 100 years. They're even currently building a Mars city in the desert with conditions similar to those on the Red Planet so that technology and building materials can be tested before being used for a Mars mission. The frontrunner for Mars exploration, however, is none other than Elon Musk's SpaceX, with the ambitious target of landing humans on the Red Planet in 2024. Before any company or organization is able to visit Mars, they will need to overcome many challenges, including getting to the Red Planet, providing shelter for explorers, and producing food and water in a hostile environment. Challenges. The first step in visiting Mars is figuring out how to cross the great expanse of empty space that separates us from the Martian soil we wish to inhabit. The first challenge is fuel. A massive amount of fuel is used just to leave Earth's atmosphere, leaving not much left over for the 6-month journey to Mars. To overcome this, SpaceX has envisioned the Starship rocket, a craft capable of taking off and waiting in orbit to be refueled by a second Starship launched simultaneously. Refueling the Starship rocket while in orbit means that a greater amount of equipment and resources can be carried on the half-year voyage. Arrival. As the Starship approaches Mars at the eye-watering speed of 16,800 miles per hour, it will begin to slow down due to air resistance from the thin Martian atmosphere. Unlike the carbon fiber composite heat shields of previous landers, Starship's exterior is made of stainless steel, which counterintuitively can withstand and dissipate heat much more effectively. Thrusters on the underside of the Starship allow the rocket to slow its descent enough to safely land on the Martian surface. After a long journey aboard the Starship, the first humans will walk the surface of Mars, where they will be met with a hostile atmosphere. The air on Mars is much thinner than Earth's and mostly composed of carbon dioxide, as well as unfiltered radiation from the sun that's a threat to both humans and the plants they hope to eat. Don't let the color of the red planet fool you. It may look warm, but temperatures can drop to lows of -195 degrees Fahrenheit. Shelter. If the first humans hope to survive in this inhospitable place, they will need to build shelters that are able to combat the chilly temperatures of Mars. Elon Musk has suggested that the first humans on Mars would live in glass domes. These would need to have some type of temperature control which would maintain a constant temperature that humans would be able to survive in. The pressure of the Martian atmosphere is less than 1% that on Earth, which is low enough for gases in the human blood to instantly turn into bubbles, killing any unprotected explorer almost instantly. For humans to survive on the Martian surface, the habitats will need to have pressure control, which maintains a pressure far higher than what is normal for Mars's thin atmosphere. Due to this thin atmosphere, high levels of radiation from the sun reach the surface of the red planet. This not only increases rapid sunburn to anyone not in the shade, but also, too, the risk of cancer. It takes 6 inches or 15 centimeters of steel to shield against this much radiation. To ensure the humans traveling to Mars are protected from solar radiation, the domes used for habitats would have to be built using radiation-resistant materials such as heavy metals or metal alloys. Building out of metal would be impractical since it's heavy and would be difficult to transport from Earth in large quantities. Alternatively, the domes could be built underground. Although building human habitats underground would be a good solution to the radiation problem, it's far more difficult than building above ground. Fortunately for the next batch of explorers, the 2024 SpaceX mission to Mars is a return trip, meaning the astronauts will only be on the surface of Mars for a limited amount of time. Radiation exposure over short periods is much safer when compared to living in a permanent and unprotected habitat. The Martian atmosphere is 0.04% oxygen, which is nowhere near enough to allow humans to breathe. Luckily, NASA and MIT have developed equipment that's able to convert carbon dioxide, the main component of the Martian atmosphere, into oxygen. That is, until plants can take over the carbon scrubbing duties. When the construction of the habitats have been completed, the astronauts will need to turn their attention to other pressing matters, such as obtaining food and water from a dry planet with toxic soil. Water. Humans need to drink around 3 liters of water every day, and it's also required for growing plants used for food. Water is heavy, and transporting large quantities of it from Earth to Mars would not be realistic. Luckily for those heading to Mars, there are expansive lakes of ice beneath the Martian soil, meaning the astronauts will be able to get a refreshing drink after doing some digging. Much of this water is very salty, however, desalination or distillation can be employed to purify the groundwater. Once adequate amounts of water have been found, the astronauts will be turning their attention to their stomachs. The astronauts will bring only small amounts of food to the red planet and will need to produce the majority of what they eat. This could be done using greenhouses with regulated temperature and pressure. The Martian atmosphere primarily consists of carbon dioxide, which is what plants need to undergo photosynthesis. What a happy coincidence! Sadly, the soil on Mars contains high levels of perchlorate ions, which are toxic to plants. The soil will need to be chemically changed to support plant growth. Once the shelters have been built and the issues of food and water have been dealt with, the first astronauts will be able to survive on the red planet. What's next? Numerous companies and organizations plan to eventually develop a self-sufficient colony on Mars that's able to sustain human life indefinitely. At the moment, humans will only be able to visit Mars if they're inside habitats or a spacesuit. But this could change through a terraforming process where we literally modify a planet's ecosystem. Think of it as climate change on purpose. Elon Musk has recently proposed the use of nuclear weapons on the red planet, which will melt the ice caps and warm Mars. This process may also result in a thicker atmosphere that's able to nurture life. While at the moment, the only people who can hope to visit Mars are trained astronauts, one day you might be able to visit our planetary neighbor, either permanently or just for a brief visit.